Welcome in, Slumpbusters. It is time for a big-time NFC Divisional matchup, and it's time to put my personal biases aside and bring on a host with Packers season tickets, Aaron Ludwig, CEO of They Call Me Bacon Entertainment. You can find them on Twitter at They Call Me Bacon. Has some sizzling takes there. All right, and I need you to rate this take for me from a Packers fan perspective. The 49ers are the team you least want to see in the postseason.
From a 1 to 5 slices of bacon rating, I'd have to give it about a 5 for sure. I've said that time and again on whether it was on our page on Facebook or even just on my personal account. Yeah, they are the team that scares me the most. They are the team that the Packers have not, for whatever reason, been able to kind of overcome. I mean, I know they won a few games now in the regular season against the Niners, but in the playoffs for the last few meetings, I mean, they really haven't had any answers for the Niners. So I know it's a different team than the team that played you guys back in 2019 or that played the Niners in 2019, but I share the attitude of a lot of Packers fans, which is kind of, I'm not going to believe it until you show me that you can do it kind of thing. And I know I don't like to be that way. I really don't. I want to have, the attitude of Patriots fans back when Tom Brady and Bill Belichick were winning Super Bowls, where it was just like, no one scares us. We're going to go in, we're going to kick your butt, and that's it. And I don't know if it's a Wisconsin fan in general. Like last year, I didn't necessarily believe the Bucs were going to win, and I thought something was going to happen. Giannis was going to tear an ACL in the finals, and that would be it, or whatever. Hopefully things are turning for Wisconsin teams. Like I said, I think this is the best opportunity that the Packers have to snap that playoff losing streak against the Niners for sure. But again, Kittle scares me. The running game scares me. Their defense honestly doesn't actually scare me as much. Can their offense run for another 200 or 300 yards like they did a couple years ago and then keep Aaron Rodgers off the field, in which case, there's nothing you can do about that. So yeah, it definitely makes me very nervous.
So I wanted to ask you about the Green Bay Packers going this season compared to the last couple years, because one of the things that I always joked about them when they got to the NFC Championship was, well, they can't stop the run. They can't stop the run. Teams have a game plan against them. And this year, Devondre Campbell goes from free agent toss away to first team All-Pro. Kenny Clark makes a Pro Bowl. What this year happened with the Packers such that now, they're a top 10 rush defense, still have one of the best secondaries in the NFL. Is this something that gives you more confidence going into this than even past Packer teams that went to the conference championship?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. And to be honest with you, I don't know if it was the change in defensive coordinators, bringing Joe Barry in, that's exactly been the answer. What's funny is that this team seems to have been playing better this year than they did last year, and some of their key pieces have been missing almost the entire year. I mean, Zadarius Smith played 18 snaps so far this year. You have Jair Alexander, who didn't play at all yet this year. Hopefully both of those guys can play and at least give us some time. Obviously Devondre Campbell, I mean, they rested him for the Lions game, but he looks like he's a full go and is going to be just fine for this game. And honestly, he's going to be the key. And like you said, it's an amazing story. The guy goes from being not wanted to all of a sudden being the captain of this defense, which is miles ahead of what they were last year, and certainly a whole light year ahead of what they were back in, a couple of years ago when the last time these two teams faced in the playoffs. So, I think Joe Barry does deserve a lot of credit. I know they started off slow. I mean, the way they looked against the Saints in that very first game, it was like, what the heck were the Packers thinking? I mean, what's this guy doing that is supposed to be so special, and then of course you had all the fans saying, well, because I think he was in Detroit before he came to the Packers, and you bring some guy in from Detroit who sucks and blah, blah, blah. And, of course, everyone's singing a different tune. Kenny Clark is really kind of the key too. Besides Devondre Campbell, the way Kenny Clark plays, if he has a game that he's completely capable of having, an all-pro type game or a Pro Bowl type game, the running backs for the Niners don't worry me. Now, Deebo Samuel still does. And, I think I heard a stat yesterday where if he carries the ball like 6 or 7 times, they're undefeated, and to me, if he's carrying the ball that much, like as a running back, then the Packers do have something to worry about.
I always think of Matt LaFleur as a little bit of an enigma because obviously very successful in his time with the Packers. 13 wins each of the seasons he's been with them, never lost back-to-back games. In the coaching matchup, is it LaFleur? Is it Shanahan? Is it a wash? How do you evaluate those two against each other?
first of all, my hope is that we can say Matt LaFleur's due. You know, even though again they've won a couple regular season games, but maybe since Matt LaFleur can somehow overcome that. I mean, I think part of the deal with those two is, I mean, Shanahan is very creative, very resourceful as a head coach. I do question sometimes, like, again, even in the last game against the Cowboys, your run game is working for you. And I see your reaction, Julian. So I'm wondering if you were thinking the same thing. Like I looked at my wife and said, if they even throw the ball one more time, they're nuts. I mean, they are stupid. I don't know what they're thinking. And sometimes I feel like some of these guys, and it's not just Shanahan, it can be, Cliff Kingsbury, it can be who's the Staley and with the Chargers. Some of these guys try to be too tricky or too fancy or I'm going to outsmart this guy or whatever. So on Saturday, if their running game is working against the Packers, I would not be surprised if we saw a repeat in terms of, the last time they played a couple years ago where Garoppolo threw 8 passes. Garoppolo, as a Packers fan, if Garoppolo has to throw 15 to 20 times, I'm feeling pretty good about that. To get back to your original question, they're kind of a wash. I mean, they're both young. They're both creative. I feel like Shanahan does a better job maybe of creating some of those plays like for Deebo Samuel and things like that. At the same time, the Packers, I don't really feel have a comparison to Deebo Samuel in terms of that guy. Maybe someday Amari Rodgers could be like that, or even Marquez Valdez-Scantling has that speed, but at the same time, the personnel has a lot to do with it too. And I do feel if we had a Deebo Samuel at one of our receiver positions, LaFleur could probably design those kind of plays too. But I guess I would consider them more of a wash. I think the fact that we have I think Nathaniel Hackett, our offensive coordinator, is a big plus for the Packers.
Well, so talking about Deebo Samuel gives me a chance to articulate one of my favorite underrated players in the NFL, which is, of course, A.J. Dillon, because there is very little comparison physically that A.J. Dillon has in the NFL. I wish he was used more in the offense. Obviously, the Packers brought back Aaron Jones this offseason, so now they have this running back committee along with an MVP quarterback, and it's hard to find touches in here and there. So I feel like A.J. Dillon is the counter to Deebo Samuel of sorts for the Green Bay Packers, because they can use that running back committee differently than the 49ers do, where it's Elijah Mitchell and using Deebo Samuel on end around type plays. How have you, as a Packers fan watching all the games this year, processed that situation where, other than maybe Cleveland, you have the best 2 running backs together on a team in the NFL, but also have the best quarterback and best wide receiver, and it's tempting to just use that all the time. It's a wealth of riches situation, but how have you processed that running back tandem this year?
Yeah, we are spoiled. Kind of going back to what we were talking about before we started this segment. Yeah, Packer fans are. Sometimes it takes someone like you to point that out and like, yeah, we are kind of spoiled, aren't we? I don't remember the Packers having, and I know when they won the Super Bowl back in 2010, 2011, they had, and it was, I'm embarrassed as a Packers fan, I don't remember James Starks, and I can't remember who their other running back was, but I don't remember this good of a tandem.
Quick
what was that,
Julian? Eddie Lacy.
Oh, that's right, Eddie. Yes. Thank you. So I don't remember though this good of a 1-2 punch since back when they won the Super Bowl with Brett Favre and Reggie White and all those guys, where they had Dorsey Levens and Edgar Bennett. Dorsey was kind of the Aaron Jones, where he could break off you know, these massive runs, and you know, he had the speed. And Edgar Bennett was the mutter who, you know, you just, you know, he plows right up the middle, and you know, he can get, you know, 3, 4, 5 yards at a time. He's not going to break off any big thing. And AJ Dillon kind of reminds me of that. So hopefully the way that turned out, you know, it'll be the same way. But I do remember even just 1 year ago, looking back on it and draft day coming around. And I mean, a lot of people were upset and confused with the Jordan Love pick, but just as many were, well, maybe not just as many, but close to as many were confused with the whole AJ Dillon pick, because they had Williams as their backup and he did well. And then obviously they had Aaron Jones, who was coming into his own, you know, and then you look at it and go, okay, well, Williams and Jones are both going to be free agents soon, so you may not be able to keep both of them. So, you know, it all worked out, but I don't think anybody envisioned AJ Dillon doing what he's doing in the second year. But it's awesome to see, because you have, I mean, when Aaron Jones got injured, you know, about a month and a half ago, when he got hurt, and has been kind of slowly recovering. You know, it was nice to have that, especially like even against the Minnesota Vikings. I mean, they won 37-10, but you were able to take out Aaron Jones, give him a rest, and just keep feeding the ball to AJ Dillon, and he could just plow up the middle, continue to get first downs, continue to run the clock, and just get the damn game over with. Now we have a guy who doesn't have to cut it outside. He can just pound it right up the middle, and it's nice to have that 1-2 punch.
Now, I noticed on the most recent injury report here that David Bakhtiari did not practice on Thursday, as well as MBS. If Bakhtiari can't go, how would this Green Bay Packers offensive line hold up against the San Francisco pass rush?
Actually, I think they'd be fine. And I don't want that to sound cocky, but I mean, I think, you know, they've been used to playing without David Bakhtiari now for the last year, this whole season. So, and they did well. I thought earlier in the year when they played. Now I know you guys, I keep saying you guys, the Niners are a different team now than they were early in the season. I totally get that. But one thing the Packers have done a great job of, and this goes even back into last year, you know, the one area you don't necessarily worry about right now, and this hasn't always been the case, but is offensive line, because it seems like the next guy up just comes up and he does fine, and you don't have to worry about the O-line. I'm not really worried about him, just like I'm assuming that Bosa is going to be playing, even though I know he's been limited at practice and all that stuff.
So this is the end of the line for the Packers. This whole season has been culminating for these 3 games. Mm-hmm. Do you feel more confident this season than you did last year or even the year before going into this with this Packers run? What is your general sentiment of this year's Green Bay Packers?
Yes. Quick, small, short answer. Yes, I'm definitely more confident than I have been in the last couple of years. You know, it's funny to go back to 2 years ago, and maybe this is why I'm a little apprehensive, because going into that game in San Francisco a couple of years ago, everyone that I talked to, people that I didn't know on Facebook, people on local radio, we're all saying the same thing. We're going to get killed. And I was one that was like, well, you know, this happens. I don't know. I'm going to try to be the optimistic fan here. And I mean, it just, you know, and it was just, and what was funny is when I go in being apprehensive, I'm not as disappointed if they actually do lose. That game, I was crushed. And like every other fan around me was like, well, why are you so upset? You know, we all knew this was going to happen. Like, I know I shouldn't get myself, you know, my hopes up. There were people last week who were cheering for the Eagles. You know, oh, we want the Eagles to beat the Buccaneers. I'm like, why? Bring it on. I don't want this team to go and win the Super Bowl and have it be the year that Tom Brady falls short of the conference championship game. And then everyone go, oh, but you didn't have to face Tom Brady. You know, that's crap. I don't want to have to deal with it. It's like the Bucks last year when they won the NBA championship. And it was like, well, you didn't have to face the Lakers and LeBron. Like, screw you. You know, they don't have control over who they play. But that's going to be the narrative is, if the Rams pull the upset against the Buccaneers, which I don't think they will, but if they do, all of a sudden it's going to be, oh, well, yeah, Aaron Rodgers gets to the Super Bowl. He doesn't have to worry about the Buccaneers. You know, if you had to face TB12, you'd be, you know, shut up. No, bring them on. We're going to slay that dragon after we slay the Niners, and then we'll be fine. But no, I do think this is going to be the year. Can the defense keep the Niners off the field? And that is the one thing that you worry about. If you watch the Packers all year, there have been games where they cannot get off the field on third down. I went to the Cleveland game, took my wife and the kids, and we had a blast. But even that game in the second half, there are times when this team gets up. And my feeling was, had they played the second half the same as the first, they would have put 42 up on the Cleveland Browns. I had no concerns about that whatsoever. And this team takes their foot off the gas sometimes. And it just, pardon my language, but it pisses me off as a fan. I'm like, why do you guys do that? Just crush them. They're all getting paid the same. If they can't stop you, that's too bad. You know, this isn't high school football. This isn't Pop Warner. This is the NFL. You know, so if you can't play defense, then you deserve to get your butt kicked by 5 touchdowns. We're not gonna, even if you submit, even if you put your hand up, we're not gonna let up. I would love to see that, especially, I mean, more so against the Buccaneers. But I mean, I'm not a huge lover of the Niners either at times. So, and my nephew, his wife is a huge Niners fan. They might be going to the game this weekend, and I was like, oh, Nick, you know, oh man, you know, don't bring another 49er fan into the stadium for crying out loud. But
all right, guys, final predictions here. Kyle, go for it.
Well, this one is the easiest for me to do of the entire wild card weekend. This is going to be the Green Bay Packers. I would argue they win by multiple scores, but I think the most likely scenario is the 49ers are burning all of their timeouts with about 2.5 minutes to go. It's a 7-point game, and either the Packers pick up a first and go into victory formation, or we get Jimmy G in what I like to call Phillip Rivers purgatory, which is down 7, no timeouts, 30 seconds length of the field to go. There is a scenario where they get there. There's not a scenario where they take the lead unless Aaron Rodgers has one of those weird games where he throws 3 interceptions like he did against the Bucs in the regular season last year, the Saints in the week 1 of this year. But it's impossible to predict when that's going to happen. Every quarterback does it at some point. There's no way to know if and when that's going to happen. I would bet against the 49ers secondary is not going to be the week that happens. So yeah, the Packers are going to win. I am 92% confident that Green Bay is going to win this football game against the San Francisco 49ers and possibly win by more than 10 points, because you would have to give me 49ers plus 10 to even consider betting the 49ers going into this game.
Aaron, your prediction, sir.
Well, yeah, I'm sharing Kyle's optimism, but I'm going to try to temper it a little bit. I would say, again, if first of all, and they don't do this, most teams don't nowadays, and sometimes I don't get why. Green Bay, if you're watching the Slumpbuster podcast, if you win the coin toss, please take it, receive, because they do what all these other teams do, and they defer. And I get you want to get the ball and score at the end of the half and then score right away in the second half. I get that, analytics, blah blah blah. But if I'm cheering for the Packers like I am, I want them to get the ball first. I want them to shove it down Niners' throats, and I want them to go up 7-0 right away, and then just keep it on keep their foot on the gas the entire time. I think it's going to be about 31-21. I think they were going to win by about 10. I think it might be close though down the stretch where it's like 24-21, and Packers put like a touchdown in the last couple minutes of the game and make it a 10-point win. I would agree though, in the sense I'm kind of the opposite with Kyle, and I think the line is right now at +6 for the Packers. I would not, that would make me nervous because it wouldn't shock me if this came down to a field goal. Either way, I think the Packers win.
All righty, gentlemen. Well, it's been a pleasure, but I am going down with the ship. Yes, I am selecting my San Francisco 49ers to win this Saturday. Yes, I am selecting them to beat that point spread of now 5.5. It is going down as we speak, because maybe it's a false sense of confidence, but it is a sense of confidence whenever the 49ers face the Green Bay Packers in the playoffs. Yes, Aaron Rodgers is 0-3 against the 49ers in the playoffs ever since he made that infamous statement about making the 49ers regret not drafting him. Going back to week three, when we had a rookie defensive coordinator out there in his 3rd coaching job. A simple thing, just let it slip his mind. Double Devontae Adams. Didn't do it. 37 seconds left. Aaron Rodgers burned us. Not going to happen again. I think the secondary is playing much better than it did early part of the season. Deebo Samuel is much more involved in the running game, and that brings back memories of Raheem Mostert running wild in the 2019 NFC Championship game. This may be a hot take about a cold field, but I think the 49ers are better equipped for the conditions that they will see in Lambeau. They are the more physical team, and I think that they're going to be able to push the Packers around and pose their will on both sides of the ball in the trenches. Offensive line, Trent Williams is back and healthy. Nick Bosa is back and healthy. And I think that those are going to be 2 key players to have out there. And you mentioned Kirk Cousins' purgatory. That does not apply to Jimmy Garoppolo, my friend. Jimmy G has led a number of comeback drives for the 49ers this season and has actually finished them off. In fact, he did it against the Green Bay Packers earlier this season, had it not been for the defensive efforts of the 49ers late in that last 37 seconds. He did it against the Cincinnati Bengals. He did it against the Los Angeles Rams. And you know what? He's going to do it this weekend. Jimmy G for the win. If you enjoyed this analysis, you got to hit that subscribe button right now. You got to leave a like on this video. You got to follow Aaron Ludwig at They Call Me Bacon on Twitter. All right, y'all. From Judy Talk Sports, Ledbetter and Aaron Ludwig. Stay safe, happy, and healthy. We will see you next time.